President Trump unveiling plans for a new fleet of battleships. Flanked by renderings of the Trump class of ships, he said they'll form part of what he has dubbed the Navy's Golden Fleet.
The fastest, the biggest, and by far 100 times more powerful than any battleship ever built. They'll also have hypersonic weapons, many hypersonic weapons, state-of-the-art electric rail guns, and even the high-powered lasers that you've been starting to read about.
Trump said the goal is to build up to 25 battleships, in part to inspire fear in America's enemies all over the world. Trump says the Navy will lead the project and that he will be involved in consulting.
Because I'm a very aesthetic person.
The Navy says the cost of the ships has not been nailed down, but a retired admiral says the first ship could top $10 billion to build, and says the large ships are not what the Navy needs to combat Chinese threats at sea. Current Navy ships have amassed in the Caribbean as the U.S. targets oil tankers linked to Venezuela. President Trump ramping up pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro amid questions of regime change.
Ultimate goal in Venezuela to force Maduro from power?
Well, I think it probably would. I can't tell that. That's up to him what he wants to do. I think it would be smart for him to do that.
The administration has accused Maduro of sending drugs to the U.S. and of stealing U.S. oil assets, but has not provided evidence. On Monday, Maduro sent a letter to the United Nations calling the U.S. seizing of tankers acts of piracy and illegal acts of violence. The UN Security Council has scheduled a meeting today to discuss Venezuela, Russia and China pledging to support Venezuela. Trump's threats to cut off Venezuela's oil revenues are also sparking concern about Cuba's economy. Cuba resells most of the oil it gets from Venezuela to China, which covers half its budget. Cuba experts say the collapse of the Maduro regime could mean the collapse of the fragile Cuban economy and turn into a massive refugee crisis for the U.S. And President Trump said the U.S. is still actively pursuing a sanctioned oil tanker that fled into the Atlantic Ocean after the Coast Guard tried to intercept it on Sunday.